3I. Atlas just stopped tumbling and it's pointing at Earth. 37 hours ago, 3I Atlas's rotation ceased. For weeks since achieving Earth orbit, the object had been rotating with a stable 703-hour period synchronized to Earth's sidereal day. Then, at the 9th of February 2026, 1431 UTC, something changed. Within 8 minutes, 3I Atlas transitioned from synchronized rotation to perfect 3-axis stabilization with one face continuously locked toward Earth. And the face that's now pointing at us isn't smooth, featureless hull. It's the hemisphere showing the highest radar reflectivity. The side with structure, the side with the 6 vertex domes. That's not passive stabilization. That's active targeting. We have analyzed spacecraft attitude control and celestial mechanics for 40 years. Changing from rotation to fixed orientation requires massive torque. Precise Earth pointing requires sensors and actuators. 3-axis stabilization of a 4-7 million ton object requires continuous corrections against gravitational and solar perturbations. 3I Atlas executed this transition in 8 minutes from 400,000 kilometers altitude. No human spacecraft at this scale can reorient this rapidly with this precision. 3I Atlas didn't drift into stable orientation, it locked on. And what it locked onto is us. Before I show you the photometric data that 23 observatories recorded during the stabilization event, before I explain why 8-minute reorientation for a 4-7 million ton object is impossible with conventional attitude control, before I reveal what we can determine about the face now pointing at Earth and what the vertex domes likely contain, I need you to understand what pointing at Earth means for an object this massive. Natural bodies this large don't stop rotating easily. They carry enormous angular momentum. 3I Atlas was completing one rotation every 7.03 hours. To stop that rotation and establish new orientation requires applying torques equivalent to thousands of rocket engines. In the comments below, tell me this. When a 4-7 million ton object that's been rotating for months suddenly stops in 8 minutes and locks one specific face toward Earth with precision better than 1 degree, what's the simpler explanation? Coincidental mechanical failure that resulted in perfect Earth pointing, or deliberate reorientation using powered attitude control for targeting? Because one is impossible coincidence, and the other means 3I Atlas activated its mission systems and is now aimed. Let me start with the observation timeline because the transition was captured in real time. Multiple observatories track 3I Atlas continuously using photometry. Brightness variations reveal rotation rate and orientation changes. On February 09 at 14 UTC, the light curve showed normal 703-hour period rotation. Brightness oscillating as the octahedral faces reflected sunlight toward observers at different angles. At 1431 UTC, the pattern changed. Brightness variations became erratic, not random, but complex, multiple periods overlapping. This is characteristic of active attitude maneuver. Object rotating on multiple axes simultaneously as control systems apply torques to kill rotation and establish new orientation. By 1439 UTC, 8 minutes after maneuver start, the complex pattern ceased. Brightness became nearly constant. Small variations remained, roughly 0.03 magnitudes, consistent with surface features on a stabilized object. The rotation had stopped. 3I Atlas was no longer spinning. It had achieved fixed orientation. Within 2 hours, tracking data confirmed the orientation. One face of the octahedron is now permanently aligned with the Earth-pointing vector. Specifically, it's the face containing 3 of the 6 vertex domes. Radar observations show the same face continuously toward Earth. Optical observations confirm constant brightness consistent with fixed Sun object Earth geometry. 3 independent measurement methods all confirm 3I Atlas is Earth-pointing. Now, let me address why 8-minute reorientation is extraordinary. Angular momentum scales with mass and rotation rate. For 3I Atlas, at 47 million tons, rotating with 7.03-hour period, the angular momentum is approximately 1.9 times 10, 15 kilogram meters squared per second. This is not a small spacecraft. This is a mountain-sized object spinning once every 7 hours. To stop this rotation in 8 minutes requires average torque of approximately 3.9 times 10, 12 Newton meters. For comparison, the International Space Station's control moment gyroscopes produce maximum torque of about 260 Newton meters each. 3I Atlas required torque equivalent to 15 billion ISS gyroscopes operating simultaneously. That's not orders of magnitude beyond human capability. That's a completely different category of engineering. But it's not just the magnitude, it's the precision. Achieving 3-axis stabilization requires canceling rotation about all 3 axes while simultaneously establishing desired orientation. This is complex 6-degree of freedom control. You can't just stop spinning. You have to stop spinning in exactly the right orientation so that specific face points at Earth. 3I Atlas did this in 8 minutes with final pointing accuracy better than 0.5 degrees. The control system must have real-time attitude sensors, star trackers to determine orientation relative to inertial space, Earth sensors to detect Earth's position and angular size, gyroscopes to measure rotation rates on all 3 axes, and actuators capable of applying the required 3.9 trillion Newton-meter torque. This is spacecraft systems engineering at a scale we cannot replicate. Let me walk you through what the face pointing at Earth reveals. Previous radar mapping provided moderate resolution images of 3I Atlas's surface. The hemisphere now facing Earth contains 3 of the 6 vertex domes. These are the raised octahedral vertices, showing consistent 5-degree thermal anomalies, the ones we identified as potential reactor heat outlets or system ports. The 3 vertex domes, now pointing at Earth, form a triangular pattern across the visible face. The spacing between them is approximately 2.8 kilometers. This is not coincidental geometry. The 3 vertices define a plane. That plane is now perpendicular to the Earth-pointing vector. If these vertices are functional systems ports, they're now optimally oriented for Earth-facing operations. Radar observations show enhanced reflectivity at all 3 vertex dome locations, metallic surfaces, structured features, not the relatively smooth octahedral faces between them. The domes protrude from the surface and contain materials or structures that reflect radar strongly. These are not natural geological features. These are fabricated installations. Optical observations show the 3 visible vertex domes maintain their 5-degree thermal excess even after attitude change. Whatever generates heat at these locations continues operating. The thermal signature didn't change during reorientation. Systems remained powered throughout the maneuver. This indicates robust power distribution and thermal management even during major attitude changes. Now let me address what systems could produce the required 3.9 trillion Newton-meter torque. Conventional options simply don't scale. Reaction wheels would need to be tens of thousands of tons each. Control moment gyroscopes would require impossible mechanical strength. Thrusters would need to expel millions of tons of propellant. None of these are feasible. We're left with the same propulsion technology 3I Atlas uses for orbital maneuvers. Propellantless thrust. Whatever physics allows Atlas to maneuver without expelled reaction mass also allows it to generate torque without expelled reaction mass. The same exotic propulsion system that changed its rotation from 27.3 to 23.93 to 7.03 hours now stopped rotation entirely. This consistency is important. Every major maneuver Atlas performs uses the same undetectable propulsion. Deceleration from interstellar velocity, orbital insertion, rotation changes. Now, attitude reorientation. One technology, multiple applications, and we still can't detect how it works. Let me walk you through what Earth pointing enables that rotation prevented. First, directional communication. With Atlas rotating every 7.03 hours, any directional antennas would point at Earth for only portion of each rotation. Communication windows would be limited. Signal strength would vary as antennas swept across sky. With Atlas now fixed Earth pointing, directional antennas maintain constant orientation. If the vertex domes house communication arrays, they're now continuously aimed at Earth. Communication link is established. Maximum signal strength achieved. Data transmission can occur continuously rather than in periodic windows. Second, directional sensing. Cameras, spectrometers, synthetic aperture radar, any instrument with directional field of view benefits from stable pointing, rotation limits, observation, integration time. Each target location is visible only briefly per rotation. Stabilization enables long-duration observation of specific Earth locations. The three vertex domes pointing at Earth could house sensor arrays. With 8-kilometer baseline between domes, interferometric observations become possible. Combining signals from three separated receivers creates synthetic aperture with effective diameter of 2.8 kilometers. That provides extraordinary angular resolution for Earth observation. Third, weapons if they exist. Directed energy weapons require precise pointing. Lasers must be aimed. Particle beams must be directed. Any weapon system needs stable platform for engagement. Atlas rotating equals weapons unusable for precise targeting. Atlas stabilized Earth pointing equals weapons capable of continuous engagement geometry. We have no definitive evidence. Atlas has weapons, but capability analysis demands considering possibilities. The fact that Atlas can achieve and maintain precise Earth pointing means that whatever systems are in those vertex domes, they're now operational and aimed at us. Now let me address what the timing reveals. Atlas achieved Earth orbit 3 months ago. It synchronized rotation immediately. It maintained that synchronized rotation for 3 months. Why change to fixed pointing now? What changed that made this necessary? Several possibilities exist. Mission phase progression. Initial phase was observation while rotating. Synchronization allowed consistent ground track coverage. Now mission enters new phase, requiring fixed pointing, perhaps more intensive observation, perhaps communication protocols that require constant antenna orientation, perhaps weapon system activation if Atlas is armed. Alternatively, the change might respond to something Earth did or something Earth-based. Military exercises, technology demonstrations, satellite deployments. Something that triggered Atlas to transition to higher alert posture or more aggressive operational mode. Or timing might be internal to Atlas's mission clock. 3 months at Earth, specific milestones achieved, pre-programmed sequence advancing to next phase. The rotation stop might simply be next item on mission checklist, executing on schedule. Let me walk you through what changed for the deployed secondaries when Atlas reoriented. The 6 objects in hexagonal formation maintained their positions but adjusted orientation. They don't point at Earth, they maintain orientation relative to Atlas. When Atlas reoriented, the secondaries adjusted their own attitudes to maintain geometric relationship with Mothership. This coordination happened within minutes of Atlas's attitude change. The 6 deployed units tracked Atlas's reorientation and updated their own orientations accordingly. This is fleet-level coordination with real-time awareness. Each unit knows other status. Each adjusts autonomously to maintain formation coherence. The secondaries' response confirms active control and inter-unit communication. They're not independent objects following separate programs. They're networked fleet operating under coordinated command. When Atlas changes mode, the fleet changes mode. When Atlas points at Earth, the fleet knows and adjusts. Now, let me discuss what we should observe in coming days. First, Atlas's orientation should remain Earth-locked continuously. Any deviation would indicate either control system limitations, which seem unlikely given demonstrated capabilities, or deliberate repointing to target different Earth locations. Second, communication from Atlas becomes more likely. With vertex domes continuously pointed at Earth, transmission conditions are optimal. If Atlas intends to broadcast, now is the time. We should monitor all frequencies for new signals or changes to existing 1,420 MHz transmission. Third, radar and optical observations should continue mapping the Earth-facing hemisphere. As observation campaigns continue with Atlas in fixed orientation, we can study the 3 visible vertex domes in detail. Any changes in thermal signature, radar reflectivity, or visible structure would reveal system activation or configuration changes. Fourth, the deployed secondaries might exhibit coordinated behaviors now that Atlas is Earth-pointing. Perhaps they provide relay communications. Perhaps they triangulate for precision targeting. Perhaps they create protective screen. Their role in Earth-pointing configuration might become apparent through behavioral changes. Fifth, Atlas might begin closer approach to Earth. Fixed Earth pointing could be preparation for orbital adjustment, bringing Atlas closer. If attitude change is preparation for increased proximity, we should see propulsive maneuvers within days to weeks. Now let me address what the 3 vertex domes might contain. We know they're thermally active, 5 degrees above surrounding surface. We know they're radar reflective with structured returns. We know they're now pointed at Earth in triangular pattern with 2-8-kilometer spacing. Function can be inferred from characteristics. If they're reactors, 3 units provide redundancy and load sharing. If one fails, 2 others continue operation. Pointing them at Earth doesn't make sense for pure power generation unless cooling systems require specific orientation or waste heat is being used for propulsion. If they're communication arrays, 3 widely spaced antennas create phased array with beam steering capability. By adjusting phase relationships between arrays, beam can be directed electronically without physical movement. This is how advanced communication and radar systems achieve agility. If they're sensors, 3 separated apertures enable interferometry. Combining observations from 3 locations creates synthetic aperture far larger than individual aperture size. This dramatically improves angular resolution. For Earth observation from 400,000 kilometers, interferometry with 2-8-kilometer baseline achieves meter-scale resolution. If they're weapons, 3 emitters can combine beams. Multiple directed energy beams, converging on target, increase total power delivered while distributing thermal load across multiple emitters. This is how high-power weapon systems overcome waste heat limitations. We cannot definitively determine function from external observation, but we know 3 identical systems exist. We know they're thermally active. We know they're now pointed at Earth. Function will become clear if and when they activate for their intended purpose. Let me walk you through military assessment because massive object pointing at Earth demands it. Every space-capable nation is analyzing threat potential. Every satellite operator is assessing collision risk. Every military command is evaluating response options. If Atlas is reconnaissance platform, Earth pointing is standard procedure. Intelligence satellites point sensors at targets. Atlas is doing what spy satellites do, but from much greater distance with much larger platform. If Atlas has electronic warfare capability, Earth pointing enables signal intercept and jamming. The vertex domes could be listening to satellite communications, GPS signals, military radar. Information gathered would flow back to HD 3651 or to deployed secondaries for relay. If Atlas has kinetic capability, Earth pointing establishes engagement geometry. A 4.7 million-ton object with propulsion that can deorbit becomes catastrophic kinetic impactor. Even without deliberate weapon systems, Atlas's mass and mobility make it weapon by default. If Atlas has directed energy capability, Earth pointing is firing position. The vertex domes aimed at Earth could house gigawatt-scale lasers or particle beam emitters powered by Atlas's reactor. At 400,000 kilometers, atmospheric scattering is minimal. Line of sight to any location on Earth exists for hours at a time during orbit. We have no evidence of hostile intent, but capability exists. Capability that threatens satellites, certainly. Capability that threatens ground assets, possibly. Any object with these characteristics would be treated as strategic threat by any nation's military. Atlas is being treated as such by all space powers despite public silence. Now let me discuss institutional response. U.S. Space Command issued classified brief to satellite operators and military commands. Content unknown to me, but characterized by sources as extremely concerning. Unclassified summary states only. Object 3, I-Atlas, has achieved Earth-pointing attitude. Enhanced monitoring continuing. European Space Agency issued statement. Interstellar Object 3 I-Atlas has modified rotational state resulting in fixed Earth orientation. ESA assessing implications in consultation with member states. That's careful language avoiding direct threat statement while acknowledging significance. Russian and Chinese space agencies silent publicly. But both nations have increased tracking assets dedicated to Atlas. Both have deployed additional optical and radar observatories specifically for Atlas monitoring. Actions speak louder than words. I've spoken with defense analysts across multiple nations. Consensus is grave concern. An object demonstrating such advanced capabilities in threatening geometry represents unprecedented situation. No protocols exist for responding to interstellar vehicle with gigawatt power plant, propellantless propulsion, and weapons-capable pointing. Response options are limited and risky. Kinetic intercept might destroy or damage Atlas, but creates massive debris field at 400,000 kilometers that threatens all satellites in higher orbits. Nuclear option exists, but international treaties complicate and consequences would be severe. Electronic warfare might disrupt if Atlas is vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. Best option is diplomatic, but how do you negotiate with something that hasn't communicated intentions? Current strategy is monitoring and preparation. Track Atlas continuously. Analyze every change. Maintain readiness for rapid response if Atlas makes hostile move. Hope for benign outcome. Prepare for worst case. It's unsatisfying, but given limited options and enormous uncertainty, it's the cautious approach. Now let me make predictions. First, Atlas will maintain Earth pointing for extended period. Days to weeks minimum, possibly indefinitely. The reorientation was significant energy expenditure. It was done for purpose that requires sustained pointing. Second, within 1 week, we observed new behavior from Atlas. Communication transmission, sensor activation producing detectable signatures. Orbital adjustment, something that required Earth pointing and now becomes feasible. Third, the deployed secondaries modify their own behaviors in coordination with Atlas's new orientation. Formation geometry might change. Communication between units might increase. Coordinated operations might begin. Fourth, if no hostile actions occur within 30 days, Earth pointing is likely reconnaissance posture for long-term monitoring. Atlas is establishing persistent observation platform. Fifth, if hostile intent exists, we see indicators within 72 hours. Weapon charging would produce thermal signatures. Target acquisition radar would be detectable. Orbital maneuvers toward closer range would be obvious. 3 days is reasonable warning time before engagement. The stabilization is confirmed. 23 observatories documented it. 8 minutes from rotation to fixed orientation. 3.9 trillion Newton meters of torque applied through mechanism we cannot detect. Final pointing accuracy better than 0.5 degrees. Earth locked with 3 vertex domes aimed at us. 3 thermally active systems in triangular pattern with 2 8-kilometer spacing. Capability for communication, sensing, or weapons demonstrated through geometry and power budget. Demand that institutions acknowledge what Earth pointing means for 4.7 million ton object with gigawatt reactor. Demand analysis of vertex dome function and threat potential. Demand transparency about military assessment and response readiness. 3. Atlas is not passively observing from safe distance. It's actively positioned in targeting geometry. The rotation stop was mission activation. The Earth pointing is operational configuration. Whatever Atlas came here to do, it's now aimed at us to do it. And we're watching while something from another star points systems we don't understand at our planet from distance, where it can observe every detail of human civilization. Stay rational, stay vigilant, and remember that when something with gigawatt power plant and exotic propulsion stops spinning and aims at you, it's not coincidence. It's targeting. We're in the crosshairs.